Billy Bob Thornton has walked into the room. Welcome.
Hey.
How are you?
Hey, fellas.
What's up, man?
How's it going?
You know, moving right along.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How's it going?
Want some chocolate chip muffin?
You know, I wish. I'm allergic to wheat and dairy, so
All right.
yeah.
I guess that's a no then.
It's probably a good thing. I mean,
What are you gonna do?
to be allergic to stuff that now everybody says is bad for you anyway is probably not the worst thing in the world, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, you know, it's like I'm always thinking I'd probably weigh like 700 pounds if I could eat the stuff I want to.
Yeah, I was wondering like how you keep in shape because you've always been in good shape, but is it just because of your food allergies?
I can't eat anything. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
When did you find out that like medically you couldn't eat anything?
Well, when I was growing up, I just assumed that everybody felt like hell after they ate.
Mhm.
You know, I just thought this is what it feels like.
it's the process.
So it's just like cutting yourself with a razor blade. You know.
Yeah.
So I went to this holistic doctor at the suggestion of a girlfriend of mine in LA when I first moved out there. So
Oh man, so you went through your whole childhood into your adult life as
Just
just
in
like
pain.
this is
Oh,
what
yeah.
eating is like. It's
E-
terrible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So because I can't eat meat like pork or beef or anything like that either.
Wow.
So essentially, I'm when I say I'm a vegan, I'm not really a vegan. I'm a vegan who cheats because I eat fish and turkey and stuff like that.
Right.
So mine is not about having a particular affinity for cows or something like that. Mine is just,
Yeah.
I'm allergic to, like I said, wheat, dairy, shellfish. I have type AB negative blood, which is the rarest type in the world, and I think it's
Fuck
like
yeah.
less than 1% of the population of the whole world has it.
Yeah.
Does it make you? Does
You're
it
the
make you?
1%.
Yeah. Does it
Yeah.
make you feel special? I feel like on some level it's like, yeah, man, I'm unique.
Oh, absolutely.
It does, right?
Oh, there's no question about it. When I say that to people, I always feel a little bit arrogant when I say it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like you kind of
I
look
got type AB negative blood, rarest type. Yeah.
Yeah.
like you meet a person, you're like, yeah, they probably don't have
Yeah, of
AB
course.
negative blood.
Yeah,
I don't think
until
so.
you get your leg sliced off and you're in traffic or something, and then you're like, geez, I've got type AB negative blood.
Yeah, I guess that's the other thing. Like you have to walk around this earth
Yeah.
making sure that you never need a blood transfusion.
Exactly. Yeah, I should live in a bubble. Yeah.
How did all this happen to you? Do you know? I mean, does this type of stuff run in your family, or are you just born with allergies and weird blood? And this is Billy Bob Thornton.
I just don't know. I really don't know. My mom had a lot of allergies, so maybe it was from her. Terrible sinus trouble and all that kind of stuff.
See, I always wonder what kind of allergies are going on or anything like that, because when I grew up, my mom never wanted to believe anything was wrong with me,
Right.
and would get upset if a doctor ever said, "Oh, well, this needs some correcting."
Yeah.
She'd be pissed.
Really?
Because
Yeah.
she was convinced that, her Sammy was perfect.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So, I mean, there could be a plethora of things
That's
going on with me that
same
I
thing
just
with me.
never...
I went to Catholic school, and it's like I had all these fucking problems, but they would always be like, just pray. I'd be like, yeah, but I don't hold the pencil right. Or, I look like an asshole now when I'm writing shit. And they're like, Jesus is not helping.
God makes no mistakes.
He's not
Chris.
helping. I look like an idiot. I have fucking claw hands.
Right.
Wow.
I needed occupational
amazing.
therapy.
Right.
You know?
All you needed was one of those pencil grip things.
That's all I needed.
That's
I
it.
don't know how to use
what it
chopsticks
was.
now. Jesus didn't help because you assholes just kept telling me to pray.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I was also reading about you, and, I mean, everything you read on the internet is true.
Of course.
So I figured,
Absolutely.
do you have a phobia of antique furniture?
I don't
Or
know.
is this one of those things that, like, you said once in an interview and it's taken on this whole life that is...
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I've had a long career of, doing a lot of interviews and saying a lot of things to people that became a thing.
Right.
And one of the things that they said about me, the antique furniture thing is true to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you'd call it a phobia. It's just that I prefer more modern stuff,
Right.
Like for me, like a Japanese restaurant or hotel is perfect.
Yeah.
Because everything's clean, simple.
Yeah.
A castle in Scotland with like old creepy velvet drapes and stuff, that's
don't like
not
that.
my
It's like
bag.
cobwebs in the corner that have been there since
That-
the 1600s.
Right, that
Yeah.
kind of
Need that.
stuff. And then
Yeah.
people say, well, is it because of spirits? No, it's just because it's creepy,
Right, yeah.
And so that's really more what that is. I was also pegged as a guy who only eats orange food.
Mhm.
And that came, I'm sure, from a waiter at this restaurant I used to go to every morning.
Mhm.
And I would get this drink, this smoothie that was orange, and I'd order papaya, and there was something else. Oh, and sweet potato fries.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing you know, I only eat orange food. It was like, well, I eat orange food sometimes.
Those two
You know?
foods happen to be the foods that I
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
and they're orange.
Yeah, the rest
so-
of the food at that restaurant sucked. The orange stuff was
exactly.
good.
Yeah. If you get something that wasn't orange that was worth a shit, I'd have it. You know?
Yeah.
Is that in your head all the time? Because I feel like, people find you to be fascinating. And so you end up in scenarios where a guy who's like a cashier or a waiter at a restaurant feels like they have an interaction with you, which to you is just like, I'm getting lunch. That's it.
Yeah.
It's nothing. It's a day-to-day thing.
Absolutely.
But it has to be special for him because now it's Billy Bob Thornton and I know something I have an experience with him.
Right.
So I'm going to tell the world that he only eats orange food.
Absolutely.
Do you sit there and go like, what the hell am I supposed to do that is not going to make somebody tell a story about me?
It's so weird. I don't know. I've never understood it. I've never cared that much about people's personal habits, you know, if they don't affect me on a daily basis.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there was this one thing on the internet one time that, you know how you're looking up, when was Joe DiMaggio born? And the next thing you know, you find something about yourself. It's like, how the hell did I get on the Joe DiMaggio thing? You know?
Yeah.
It's like top 10, people who, walk and breathe who suck or whatever it is,
Yeah.
And so anyways, there was this thing on there about how short I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, how the hell did I get on a list of short guys in the entertainment business? So I start looking at it, and there was.
Are you sure? You're
he's
not
a
short.
guy of average height.
He's
yes,
a great height.
I'm 5'11" and a half.
That's a great height.
You're a fucking giant in colonial times.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. I went to England one time. We were in the north part of England in some creepy little house we had to go to. And the door was like, what is this, leprechauns? I didn't understand what was going on there. But they said, no, that's how tall people used to be. So when they say Peter the Great was a giant, he was probably 5'7".
Yeah, right. You would have towered over him.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But one way or the other, I kept looking after I saw that. You know how you go down the rabbit hole.
Well,
so
now you have to know. Yeah.
Now I got to know. So I get on here, and there's this whole chat room thing happening where people are talking about this. They're, well, I saw him in Tombstone. He was standing next to Kurt Russell, and I happen to know Kurt Russell is this tall, and he was much shorter than Kurt. And I'm thinking, they don't know that. And so anyway, supposedly I'm like 5'7" or 5'8".
Really?
And so I always just tell people when I do, like, you'll have a Q&A after some screening or whatever, and I'll just say, just so you guys know, I'm 5'11" and a half. And you can see that. Stand next to me, Dennis,
Yeah, I will say, when you walked into the studio just now, of all the things I was thinking, not one of them was like, he's short.
Not one.
Because you weren't.
Sure.
I'm going to just go in conversation today and be like, I met Billy Bob Thornton today. Guy's a fucking giant.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to get you on a new list.
Yeah.
This guy's got to be like 7'2".
Yeah, he's like, the guy looks like,
fake news.
Oh, yeah. right.
He's incredibly big, and he's muscular, too. You should see the shoulders on this guy.
Right.
You have no idea. You started winning awards super early. You've won an award for Goliath already for season 1, right?
Right.
But your first award you got for Sling Blade. Didn't you win for writing?
The first real award, I suppose. When you're in school, you get stuff like, most likely to not kill somebody or whatever. But, I was actually in the newspaper when I was 7.5 months old.
Wow.
Back in Arkansas, because as a baby I was really fat, and
because that's when you could eat whatever you wanted.
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't know any different. No wonder I cried all the time. Right? But one way or the other, when I was 7.5 months old, I weighed 30 pounds. That's like a That's like a first grader,
right?
I was going to say my 4-year-old daughter weighs 29 pounds.
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly. And so they had me in the newspaper. So that was sort of my first notoriety. But I won the Academy Award for screenplay, and I was nominated for Best Actor, and then I got nominated again for A Simple Plan, this movie I did a couple of years later for supporting actor, and then And the rest of it's all, Golden Globes and Chicago critics, New York critics,
But
stuff like that.
when you get into Hollywood, and Sling Blade is kind of your introduction to the Hollywood community, right? And you go right to the Academy Awards. Does it mess things up in the sense that you think everything should be Academy Awards, or does it take that pressure off of like, okay, well, I've been here now, so now I don't need to think about this anymore?
Well, it definitely changes things. I mean, and a lot of people are under the impression that Sling Blade that's when I became known with the broad public.
Right.
I'd been working out there since 1981.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, it's like playing the, next door neighbor creep on Knott's Landing or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I'd been doing stuff, and I'd done a couple of TV shows, Evening Shade with Burt Reynolds and this show with John Ritter and, various movies here and there. So I'd been working for a long time, and then we made a movie called One False Move that I wrote with my writing partner, Tom Epperson, that was made in about 1989 or 90, somewhere in there, which got us a name within the movie business, but not with the public.
Gotcha.
And that was a critically acclaimed movie. But then when after the Academy Award, it literally does change everything.
Mm-hmm.
And on the positive side, what it does is all of a sudden everybody wants you.
Right.
It's some sort of like get out of jail free card. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
and it's your membership card. You're accepted now.
you are accepted,
right?
Yes. And so that changes everything. But you're right about that, and I think you're the first person who's ever said that, but it's true, that all of a sudden, once that happens, if you don't win one, you think you're a loser.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because that's not what you're gearing towards anymore. That's not what your aim is. That's the pace card. That's where the standard's been set.
Exactly.
Well, and I think it helped because if the math's right, you didn't really get broadly known to people until like your late 30s, right? Like you were older.
Right. Absolutely.
So that's good, man. You go through stuff because
you can handle stuff a little bit.
People's getting stuff in their 20s now. It's like you're gonna fucking snap, guy.
Yeah.
Well, that's right.
You could just tell. I'm like, this person's gonna snap.
Chris is talking about his experience on Guy Code. He was like, if Guy Code did that to me, I can only imagine.
They're showing MTV too. Yeah. People are always like, where do I know you from? I'm like, maybe Guy Code. They're like, that's not it. I'm like, it's probably it. We're in Iowa. I don't know anybody here.
That's so funny.
I got nothing going on.
Yeah, it's so weird that it does put that pressure on you to all of a sudden you got to win awards every time you do something. And then you guys saw what was the movie that Chris Guest did about the little movie and
for your consideration.
For your consideration.
Yeah, the movie was like Home for Purim, right? Like that's what they were making.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so somehow somebody, which does happen, through because it's like this weird little movie or whatever, and then somebody says something about it. It's like, oh, this must be important. Next thing you know, here are these poor people, these actors who didn't expect anything, and next thing you know, they're actually in the race.
Right.
And it shows like Catherine O'Hara, like at her house waiting for the nominations to be on TV. That's the weirdest thing on earth.
It's like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning.
In the morning.
Yeah.
And so, and I guess over here for you guys, in New York, it's like at a normal time. In LA, people wake up at literally 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And you watch TV to see if you're not, and then when you're not, it's the strangest feeling in the world if everybody's already told you you're going to be.
Right.
I mean, if you don't expect it, who cares? Right. So over the years, I've learned to really not think about it.
Yeah.
And so I don't even know. Like I tell my publicist, I say, don't remind me, that this stuff's coming up right now.
So you won't even know if today's the nominations day.
I sleep through the whole thing. And then if I get a phone call at like 6:30, I'm like, what happened to somebody? Right. And then it's like, hey, congratulations. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. What do you think is the most underrated thing that you've done? I feel like you've done like so much, and you've done so much good stuff.
Well, I did a movie with the Coen brothers called The Man Who Wasn't There. It was in black and white, and Jim Gandolfini was in it, and Fran, and it was. I loved that movie, and it was largely ignored in the States, and I won the British Film Critics Circle Best Actor Award for it, and it was. It's black and white. I guess maybe a little more European kind of vibe, maybe or something, but. I think I think they made a masterpiece with that movie, and it was one of their movies that got more ignored here, and I think the movie got nominated for a few things. I might have gotten nominated for the Golden Globe or something like that for it.
But people just didn't know about it here.
But they didn't know about it
Yeah.
much here, yeah. And Roger Deakins, who's their DP, he's wonderful, and I think he was nominated for the Academy Award because it looked amazing. And I would have to say that's one that was very, very underrated. That, and of course, Chopper Chicks in Zombie Town from 1987.
Well, of course, that's a must
But
see.
everybody knows that.
100%. What do you think I jerk off to?
Have you had to campaign for like during award season ever? Have you ever fallen into that?
Well, in the beginning, you don't know any better.
Of course.
I mean, they tell you that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Well, you have to, otherwise, you know.
Well, you kind of do.
Yeah.
And that's the fact of the matter is, if you just completely stay home and watch sports,
Mhm.
you ain't getting nominated.
Right.
Usually. I mean, it does happen occasionally. I think these days less and less. I think probably publicity and campaigning is more important now than it ever was. The thing is that the avenues in which to do it have changed. I mean, with the internet. See, when I was coming up, there was no internet.
Right.
So you really, these days, you really got to stay active, like with social media and stuff like that, to kind of get out there. So there's a lot more of it. Although when I was, coming up, and I remember like Miramax did Sling Blade, and I remember going to all these, trotting out to all these parties and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And honestly, that's more exhausting than working. That's the most exhausting part of it.
Right. Just trying to get people to
Yeah.
the awareness, creating the awareness of you and the
Yeah.
project, and
Yeah.
Especially now with social media, now it's like the work never stops.
Full
in
time.
entertainment, it's like you do the movie or you do whatever, and then it's like you have to promote it. It's like, at least I feel like before social media, you could get a little bit of a break.
right. If you're
Yeah.
not doing an interview
Yeah.
or you're not at a party, you're not promoting.
That's right.
Right.
Even like the algorithms on Instagram, it's like if you don't post every day or whatever, then the Instagram starts to push your profile down and down and down. Like it wants
yeah.
it wants to be fed,
Right.
Yes.
like a monster.
And you have to be aware of it too.
You have to know
Yeah.
what's going
Yeah.
on, which is
Exactly.
like nuts.
And
Yeah.
the other thing is and I only learned this in the last few years,
Yeah.
is that it doesn't necessarily mean anything if it's positive or negative. Like, in other words, if I have 137 followers or something, or if I got 137 hits on something saying I'm amazing,
Sure.
that's not as good as having 4 million hits saying I suck.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which always, that just astounds me.
Right.
You
You're
know?
going like, oh my God, they hate me. No, this is good. This
Oh,
is
it's
really good.
No,
This is
Yeah.
great.
you don't understand. 4 million people hate you.
Yeah, it's great. Look at
It's
the
about
bagel guy. Look at the
impressions. Impressions.
That bagel boss guy. Like
He's a star.
He's a fucking star.
We've
He's
literally
an
had him
agent.
on. We've had him on the show twice.
Yeah, he's rep by UTA.
Right.
Are you out of your mind?
Unbelievable.
But
isn't
it's
it?
like, I'm trying to sell out comedy clubs here. I'm doing fucking bananas off the side of the highway in New Jersey.
You see
this
Chris-
guy's doing theaters.
He's doing stand up, Chris the Bagel
Yeah,
Guy.
I got real talent over here.
Do you?
But-
No, not really. Well, somebody look at me.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
No, I know.
But it's like, when that band Nickelback, that they say Nickelback, the most hated band in the world. or
Yeah.
whatever. I listen to Nickelback and I listen to another 30 bands that sound kind of like Nickelback.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why does everybody hate them? But it doesn't seem to stop them selling records.
Yeah.
No, and people
Nickelback
still go
will
to the
sell out-
shows.
They'll sell out
Yeah.
MSG.
Of course they will.
Nickelback. Easily.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that, they'll sell it out.
If Creed went on tour, I mean, Creed was like the most popular band in the world to hate. And
Oh,
if they
yeah.
went on tour,
Right.
they would sell out every time.
1,000%.
Creed was the band. I hosted Saturday Night Live one time. And I was offered it a couple other times, but I couldn't do it because it made me too nervous.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to do. Live on TV.
And you have to be funny.
You have to be funny like
Yeah.
every second. Yeah, it's amazing. And so I did this Thanksgiving episode of 2001.
Mhm.
And it was so weird because I always thought you picked the musical guest yourself. Like I would, like I would say, I'd see a guy who's hosting, like, I don't know, say Tom Hanks is hosting and Paul Simon is the guy. I was like, I bet he's friends with Paul Simon.
Right.
He calls him up, And I kept saying, when do I pick the musical guest? Oh, no. The musical guest is already on. I go, who is it? They said Creed. And so I actually introduced Creed twice on Saturday Night Live.
That's incredible.
I
I
like
also
Creed.
You like Creed, and I love that in 2001, there was still enough show business naivete in you that you were like, well, I'm picking the band, right? And
Absolutely.
And I was like, no.
I totally thought.
No,
I mean, I was
of
going
course
to get, I was going to get, Paul McCartney.
Why don't more
Who do you want? Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
The Rolling Stones. Yeah, Elton John. Yeah. All three of them. No, Elton John, the Rolling Stones, and Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
So Goliath Season 3 comes out October 4th on Amazon Prime. And you've done this thing on Goliath. You also did it in Fargo, which, Goliath is amazing. Fargo is your season's one of the best seasons of television that I've ever seen. It's so great. You have this look that you have the ability to do where it's like, we could fight right now and you'll be dead and I won't have a scratch on me. Like it's this unnerving, deathly, confident thing where it's like, oh my God, he's serious. Where did you learn to look like that?
I know that look.
You know what I'm talking about,
Where
right?
It's like he's looking at you like, I will fucking kill you, and there's nothing you do to kill me unless you give me a gluten cookie.
Yeah, for somebody that's allergic to all foods and doesn't like castles and only eats orange and is only 5'6", you know, like where do you learn to give that look where it's no matter what happens here, you're dead, and I'm walking out?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, 140-pound hillbillies are very angry. But my dad, he was a boxer in the Navy. He was like a hot-headed little Irish basketball coach, high school basketball coach. And I had to fight a lot when I was a kid. And my dad taught me, he said, all you got to do in a fight is act like you're crazier than the other guy. Yep. He said, if the other guy thinks you're going to kill him, then you win. And of course that doesn't apply. Like if you go into some, bar and there's a guy who's 6'7" and weighs 350 pounds, plays for the Giants, he's going to kill you.
Yeah.
But at least when you're up against another regular guy, it helps to look him in the eye and say, listen, you may have fucked up here.
And so that's what you learned that then.
I learned it a long time ago,
Wow.
Yeah,
were you able to avoid fights from the look?
Not always.
No.
Sometimes it just pissed them off.
Right.
Yeah.
And then were you able to follow up on that look, or did they realize, oh, okay, he just learned how to do a good look?
No, I followed up on it a few times.
You learned how to fight.
I mean, these days you don't see fights anymore, though.
No.
You really don't. I mean, you see them in sports, but I think just regular guy fights that you used to see in the street, you don't see it so much because people now, they carry it too far.
Right.
Yes.
And there's also like lawsuits and all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like we used to, when I was 19, you get in a fight with a guy, you punch a guy, he doesn't call the cops on you.
No.
Right.
No.
If anything, you'd settle what you had settled, and it's like, okay.
And
exactly. And it's very different. Now, and I have there's something about sports, because I'm a sports guy. I watch, especially baseball. And sometimes when you watch these baseball fights, they don't land a lot of punches. You ever notice that?
No, they can't hit.
Maybe they're trying to compete with hockey or something.
Right. Like they're just sitting there going, what'll spice up this game right now? What'll get interest? Everybody says baseball's boring. Let's give them a show.
Exactly.
It's also nobody does get punched in the face anymore. You're right. Like, and people need to start getting punched in the face. Like, I don't know why violence has been removed from our society. It's like I on Twitter now, right? You'll see somebody tweet out something controversial, and they're like, "I stand by it." I'm like, "You're only standing by it because nobody's punching you in the face."
Right.
Okay.
Would you stand by this opinion if it meant getting punched in the face?
Because let's be honest, I grew up in Brooklyn in the 90s. I've had wild opinions too, and then I've shouted them out from a bar in Brooklyn, and somebody's come over, punched me in the face. My head's hit the pavement. I've regained consciousness. I've gotten up, and I've had different, better opinions. Immediately, we've pulled a switcheroo. So it's like, you're not that tough, guy.
Want more Jim and Sam? Catch up with full episodes and interviews from celebrity guests anytime on demand using the SiriusXM app.